plants here with root healthy plants. So I got a question in the comments. Somebody asked me, how did I get into gardening? Okay, I mean, that's a good question. And how did I start? So I'm gonna walk around the yard, and as I do, I'm gonna talk to you and answer the question. I first started when my wife and I, we moved to our house that we have now in 2019, and it's a nice plot of land, and I'll show you a little bit if I can step further back and give a better view. So this is part of the backyard right here. That's the tarp that I use for drying out grass and weeds. A lot of this is still grass right here, but everything over here is all grass, which I'm growing a lot of food in now. This took time to get to this point. And then all the way back here. So all the way back there where the trees start back there is like the end of the property. And you kind of see like a fence line back there. I walk back a little bit. So this is all grass. All this stuff is all grass, all grass. And all I had was a push lawnmower. Who wants to be doing this? Like, it's every 2 weeks, I'm back here cutting all this grass. Like, this is a lot. And I didn't even get all the way back there yet. Like, it's a lot to walk through. I got tired of cutting, on my 2 days off from work, I'm cutting grass all day. Like, that's a lot of grass to cut. That's a lot of ground to cover. And I just got tired of it, honestly. So what I did was, the first thing that I started growing in was this one planter box right here. So I had this on my porch for years, actually. And this was the first thing I started growing in. Got a planter box, and I had a couple pots. And the first thing that I started growing was peppers. And I think I had a pepper from the grocery store, and I just saw it was like a ton of seeds in there. And I was just wondering, like, will these really grow? Can I really grow food with this? So I threw some seeds in there, and it grew. A lot of them sprouted. Most of them sprouted. We bought some garden soil, and I put it in the planter box, and I was amazed. We got some production out of it. It didn't do great, but it did okay. But I was just amazed, like, wow, is it that easy to grow your own food? Is it really that easy to grow your own food? Okay, so the next year, I bought some grow bags, and I come over here to the section where I have over 100 grow bags. Now, it may not look like it because I got them like stuffed in there pretty heavy, pretty good, and I got bricks holding them down so they don't fly away. But like, I started with 5-gallon grow bags, and you see the moss growing on them from being outside. But I started with these 5-gallon grow bags. Bought a bunch of these. Ooh, a little bug in there. Oh! All right, you're home, you got it. But started with these 5-gallon grow bags. So I did a bunch of those. We bought maybe about 20, 30 of those. And we got a dump truck worth of garden soil, and we started filling up bags, my wife and I. Mainly me, but we'll include her in this. But yeah, so we got those filled up, and we did okay. We did better than we did the year before out of sheer amount of soil that we had. But the one thing that was a hindrance for us was, well, it wasn't just one thing, it was two things. One, it was the lack of space that we had protected. Deer ate down 25 tomato plants. So I had tomato plants in 25 grow bags. I put them in the side of my house, and the deer ate them all down, all of them. And I was so upset that I didn't even, I was like, you know what, I was discouraged, and I was like, you know what, F them, I'm done. I'm done with that. I'm done with those tomatoes. So we still had peppers, because I had the peppers on my porch, and the deer didn't actually come on my porch. I got 2 different porches that you can walk on and has plenty of space. So I put a bunch of grow bags, maybe about 20, 25 grow bags on one porch that had all peppers, and I had grow bags on the other porch that had some more peas and green beans that sprouted, and we got some production out of those. But the second hindrance, the second issue was the quality of the soil. So that dump truck, the company advertised as they were selling garden soil. But when I got it, you know, it has a little bit of organic matter in it. Maybe like the second day, I seen it steaming, and I'm like, okay, it's breaking down. So yeah, we got some garden soil, but I think they just put some fresh stuff in there right before they delivered it, or just not too long before they delivered it. But I found out later on that that mix was super sand heavy, a lot of sand, a lot. And that was the reason why we didn't get as much production out of the stuff that we had planted in the bags. It just didn't do well. Some of the stuff was stagnant. It started growing and it just kind of tapered off. Now we did get some peppers, but like some of them, like bell peppers, they shouldn't be that small. Like a lot of bell peppers just didn't do well. They didn't grow big. Some of them did okay, better than others. I started learning about compost, like, because I didn't know what to do. I'm like, I have all this garden soil and I don't know what to do. Like, it's not good. It's so much sand in it. And I'm just like, oh man, I hope I'm not gonna have to scrap all this soil. I'm like, okay, I want to start growing in the ground. So I started making raised beds. I had the notion of growing in the ground, but I didn't start growing in the ground yet. But I started doing raised beds. I started making above ground raised beds. So what I did was I went on a website called Free Cycle, stuff that people are trying to get rid of, and they're upcycling some of the stuff that they can't use anymore. And then I saw somebody getting rid of some fencing. So I got the idea that we can make raised beds out of them. And I actually have three. One is getting overgrown with stuff right there. And I'm gonna have to clean all this stuff up, but I'm gonna compost most of the stuff back here. But I made three of these. And these things are like on stilts. And we'll show you the bottom. Let's see how the bottom's looking. The bottoms are holding up. Not bad. For having these, I had these for maybe about 3 years now. That was my humble beginnings. But yeah, I did okay in this. I put that same soil in there. So it did okay. It didn't do the greatest. The last thing I grew in this, actually last year was the last thing I grew in it. So it's starting to get overgrown with weeds right now. But I had turnips in here last year. So that was the last thing I put in these beds. But I went from doing that to in-ground beds. But in that same year, after making the above ground raised beds, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna do some that are actually on the ground where I don't have to have more legs. But I got a couple squash, a couple cucumbers, but it just didn't grow as well as I would have liked. And I still had the problem of groundhogs getting in my enclosures. We had maybe, I would say maybe about 10 to 15 squash grew that year, and the groundhogs got all of them but 3. We got 3 squash, and the groundhogs ate them all, ate all the rest of them. And I was just so upset because I'm like, I have an enclosure. I put up 2 enclosures. One of them, the first one I made, that was made out of what? Fishing line and just some netting, some plastic netting. And the groundhogs got right through that. They got right through that. Just kept eating my squash, kept eating my squash. And I was like on a budget. I'm growing on a budget because I'm like, I don't really know what I'm doing. I think I'm starting to know what I'm doing, but I'm running into issues. Like the soil's not good. My enclosures aren't good. And I finally just buckled down and decided to put up a better enclosure. So this year, we expanded because I had 3 enclosures in this one area where I have this one big enclosure. I had 3 separate enclosures. So I'm starting over here. Like this was, like I had an enclosure right here, and then I had another one right here, and then I had another one kind of like over there. But all the space wasn't filled in. Like this one enclosure encompasses maybe about 5 or 6 of the enclosures that I had before. So, I mean, right now, this is doing amazing. You know, all this stuff growing right here, this is all food. Everything you see in here is all food. I'm doing way better this year. And I did an experiment because I'm like, okay, after learning about compost, I did a lot of research on compost. What I shouldn't do, what I should do. I bought numerous compost bins. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do a controlled experiment. I'm like, I wanna try a till. I wanna try tilling, a tilled bed.
And that's me tilling with my $400 broad fork.
Which is this one. I wanna do a no-till bed.
And that's me prepping the above ground bed after dumping out all those bags of soil and adding in a lot of organic matter So then I can cover that up and let the microorganisms break that stuff down so it can turn into a real nutrient rich growing medium for me to grow in the spring.
Which is this one right here. And then I want to do a bed where it's all wood chips.
I have now added so much wood chips here, and I am ready to plant my Three Sisters seeds and method.
That over there, where you see corn growing up, that's a Three Sisters bed right there. All right. So this bed right here, it's a 45 by 6 foot bed right here. And it did good. So I tilled it, and then I layered a heavy layer of compost, and then I put down a lot of that soil that I had from previous years. And it was more like topsoil. So it did okay with staving back some of the weeds initially. And I was able to plant stuff. I was able to direct sow some of the stuff. This did well, and it's still doing well. You see how abundant everything is growing. And because I put so much compost and I put seeds in my compost, so like when I compost a squash, melons, tomatoes, whatever, I compost everything. So seeds get in my compost. So all the squash you see in this bed, all the way down to the end, and I'll walk down here. So all the squash you see all in here, all of these are all volunteers. Even that red Russian kale right there is a volunteer. This tomato plant is a volunteer because I put tomatoes on the back end. So the back end is all tomatoes, what you see trellised here, and to all the way down there, and peppers on this end. What else we got? Volunteer eggplant. So I don't mind. I like volunteers, and you see a bunch right here. And I started seeing just way better production after adding compost into what I was growing. And on top of better production, more nutrient-rich plants, I'm getting free food. So that's free. I didn't plant any butternut squash this year. So there's so much volunteers. Now, granted, the groundhogs got in here a few times, and they ate maybe about 4 of the squash already this year. But I've also gotten plenty of squash too. So it kind of balanced itself out. So I didn't plant any. I got free food. The groundhogs got in here. They got to eat. And then, so this bed right here, the middle bed, which is hard to see that it's an above ground bed, but it is, as you can see, the drip irrigation. I took a lot of stuff out here, so it doesn't look as abundant. I had potatoes in here. I feel a couple at the bottom, just like that right there. That's ready to come out right there. So we're gonna take these potatoes off. Here, I already harvested all the potatoes. This is the last of the potatoes right here. So this was still growing strong, so I just left it there. All this right here is all super grown with all potatoes. Now the only thing left is I got watermelons growing in it from the side, on that right-hand side. That's what, most of that stuff is right there. It's all watermelons. Watermelon right there. And they're all around. This whole side right here is all on watermelons. What else is in this bed? So the potatoes grew good. It's August. I already took a harvest out of here. I didn't put any potatoes back in here because I didn't want to keep disturbing the soil. So I'm going to put a lot of my fall crops in this bed. But this bed did really well. And it's not like you see wood chips are here, but it's really not wood chips. I just kind of covered it up just to keep the soil from degrading in most spots. But what we have? We got sweet potatoes still in here. I didn't take those out, so those are sweet potato vines. But it did really, really well. And I could plant stuff like root vegetables, the carrots, potatoes, turnips, beets, all those type of things that grow in the soil. So I can grow all that type of stuff in there. Now I would have grew on this side, but I heavily mulch this side now. So this is like a heavy mulch over here. But I'm just like, okay, I don't need to do all that tilling. So that's, it took a long time. It was a lot of work, a lot of effort to do all this tilling for this other bed over here. This bed, all I did was take a bunch of compost. I took a bunch of leaves, grass, and I mixed it with that soil that I had from previous years that was the topsoil, just sand heavy soil, and just mixed all that together, covered it with bags until it was ready to plant in to work. It was amazing. So all that soil really needed was organic matter. As you see, it's still doing great right here. We have eggplant right here. More eggplant. There's plenty of eggplant still in here. We got more. And we got put in some strawberry here. Some more strawberry on this side. And you can see more watermelon growing over here. I cut a few off because they split open this year because of the inconsistent rain. So we get, it's been pretty dry, getting droughts. and then we get heavy rainfall, so a lot of watermelon been splitting. But it's still growing, still doing good, and all the watermelon is coming from this one bed right here. But it's a ton of watermelon in here. Sugar baby, so that's why they're not growing like super big. So they're small watermelons. I have some beans right here. So a lot of beans growing in there. Got a bunch of beans growing in here. And this is just arborist mulch. This is all wood chips. There's no soil in here at all wood chips. And we got corn coming in. I planted it a bit dense, but it's still coming in, still growing, still doing good. And then we got beans all in here. This is all just wood chips, no soil at all. And you see stuff is growing. I done took some black-eyed peas out of here already. They've been producing. I'm waiting for the corn to produce, and it's got to pollinate each other. This bed did great, and I'm going to do this method right here that I did with this bed, for the above ground method, next year, because it's less work and it's less disturbance of the soil underneath. And I can start out with just a rich and nutrient-rich soil mixture versus having to till the ground that's been degraded, hard red clay dirt. A lot of the trees were, it's rooted underneath, so I had to like rip up a lot of bush roots and stuff like that. It's just a lot of work and a lot of tearing up the soil structure underneath that I didn't need to do. This bed, I didn't have to do any of that. I just laid down the compost. It turned into compost, but so I took the lawnmower, mulched up all those leaves, all the grass, and mixed it up with the soil. So I recorded all of it. I recorded the whole process of this and this one. And this is how everything is looking this year. This trellis right here, I actually put this trellis up here this year.
And this is my wife filming me as I'm doing it because she had no idea what I was up to.
I made this, cut down a couple trees, a couple black locust trees, and the rest of what I had from free cycle of the wood that somebody was getting rid of. And we have more butternut squash. Like I said, I didn't plant any of this stuff. So I took some volunteers that was in the other bed, and there's another butternut squash in there. Another one right there. So what I did was I took a couple of volunteers from when I composted over here. I took some volunteers from this bed and transplanted it over here. And that's what they grew up this side. And I took some squash from over here already. We got cantaloupe on there. But I took some squash off of here already. And then they could continue to grow. And now we're getting more squash on this side. They were free. I didn't plant any of those. And we got more squash coming in right there. More squash down there coming in. Just using that heavy mulch, I don't have to weed this area anymore. So this started out with looking very humble. None of this was here in the beginning of the year. None of this stuff was here. It was just a mailbox. And now this thing looks amazing. And these zinnias, although these are annuals, they are some of the longest lasting flowers that I've ever seen or grown. Like, they've been here for quite some time, and it just continues to look like the gem of the neighborhood. My front yard food forest, I'm gonna look from the outside because it's a lot to just walk through here. They got so much planted in there. I started putting in trees this year. Plum tree right here. This is a pawpaw tree. You see the label at the bottom. But I started putting in fruit trees. It's an elderberry bush right here. Another elderberry bush. It's a pawpaw tree right there. And behind that is carrots and ginger. Another elderberry, but there's some thyme right there, some sage, some rosemary I just put in not too long ago. Another elderberry bush. I'm growing directly in wood chips right here. There's a ton of beans back there. So I'll get a side view, but that's a ton of beans that I just planted just crazy thick just to see if it would grow so dense like that. And if it would produce any fungus or mold or anything. And so far, so good. The groundhogs actually got through there from the back under the fence. They got through here a couple times and ate all the beans down, but all the beans grew back. That was amazing. So those groundhogs, it's a fight every year with them. Squash right here, these are volunteers. I didn't put those there. I put these peppers here. Everything here and under this sheet is all directly grown in wood chips. So this is arborist wood chips. That's a volunteer eggplant. Jalapeno peppers, Hungarian wax peppers, habanero peppers right there, some bell peppers right there. So I succession planted sunflowers, so we got a bunch more coming in. Catmint. You see all that Tuscan kale right there, all grown directly in wood chips. I didn't put soil under there, so it was just grass, and then I came and layered this area with arborist wood chips, and I got plenty of production out of it. We even have tomatoes here. Tomatoes here. I could do a separate video on the transition and how I did that, where none of this stuff was here. It was just grass, and I'm cutting this every week. So now this is food forest where we got beets right there. We got beans behind it. We got a peach tree right here. We got a nectarine tree right there. another nectarine tree right there. I got a fig tree right there, a Chicago hardy fig, hazelnut tree right there. I put in 2 chestnut trees, but the deer got over this fence right here and ate down both of the chestnut trees. I actually had more in my basement, so I got chestnut tree right there, and then behind that, in that other bucket right there, these are persimmon. So I got 6 persimmon trees. So I'm getting ready to put all those out too. So I encourage everybody to start growing. Start your journey however it may look. Nobody in my neighborhood is growing in their front yard how I'm growing in my front yard. I decided, I'm like, I got plenty of space in my backyard, but I want to show the community that we can all grow our own food. We don't all have to be reliant on the supply chain, price gouging, and whatever the case may be. Because if the grid goes down, or people start panic buying, supply chain issues happen, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? If you got a line to local farmers, you might get by. It's just an invaluable tool to know how to grow your own food and provide for your family. Research, learn about growing, learn about soil health. I appreciate y'all for watching this video. If you got some useful information out of it, please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you have anything to offer, any comment suggestions, put in the comment section. Keep it growing.